All right, so good morning, welcome everyone, well good evening depending upon where you're located. We're excited to come together for our third week in our Run to Bronze, and this week it's my privilege to be asked to talk about how to invite. The last series we did had an amazing rundown for you that you've got lots of details on specific ways to talk to people and who to talk to and how to find those people. I'm going to dive a little more deeply in the mindset around the things that we need to think about when we're actually inviting people, the goals and the intentions of our conversations, and how not to get wound up with these check-off lists where you feel like you've got to cover every single thing and not be a normal human being, because that's the important piece. We want to maintain those relationships. So some of the things I'm going to talk about is intention and mindset. That's going to form the way that you invite. It's a really key piece that I don't think we always think about when we get into this business. Asking questions with a purpose to set up your goal for where you want to go to in that conversation. The dreaded three-way call, right? It feels like the dreaded three-way call for so many people, especially when we're new to this or this business in particular. What tools do you use? How do you share things? And I want to finish up and just wrap up briefly on talking about emotional intelligence, which is a really important piece of what we do here. So let me ask you, what was your intention when you signed that piece of paper, or didn't sign the piece of paper but joined online maybe? Did you just sign up for an account? Was this, well, I want this for wholesale and maybe I'll share it with a few people? Or when you looked at that application and the opportunity that it has, because it's more than one product, right? It's a product we use, but the product is also the business opportunity that we can offer other people. So did you make a decision that that piece of paper, that account, that opportunity to have that associate account gave you the opportunity to build a revenue generating business? That's a very different thing than simply just using the product and occasionally sharing. And I don't think that people always think clearly about what that can mean or take it seriously. Now, if you open a traditional business, and I really want you to think about what you have in much in the same way as a traditional business, I want to propose a question here. If you had a traditional business, you're going to have weekly expenses, whether you have a customer or not. Right? And let's say that when you signed this associate account, one of the clauses in there from ASEA was, well, if you don't bring in a new customer or an associate every week, we're going to charge you $500, just like the rent that you'd have to pay for your physical location for maybe being a hairstylist, right? How differently would you treat your business if it was going to physically cost you money every single week? And that's one of the challenges here, is this business doesn't cost us money every week. And so it's very easy to be particularly casual. If you had a brick and mortar business, would you spend your day simply standing outside? Let's suppose you open that, imagine that you've opened up your business, all right, you don't advertise on paper, you are the marketing arm. So how are you going to get people in that business? Are you going to stand outside on the street and try and catch people as they come along? And it could be the first one's like, nope, go away, don't want to know. The second one's, no, I've got a hairdresser, I've just had my hair cut, thanks very much. No, I'm in a rush. Well, what is it that you've got? Oh, well, no, I just had my hair cut last week, but you might get someone in the door to look at your business, and they might say, well, that's great, but I'll call you in 6 weeks when I get my next haircut. The next person might be willing to actually book an appointment with you in 3 or 4 weeks. But what happens in the interim? You've got bills, right? And you need to get people in there. So how are you going to actually approach learning and getting people together? I want to look at just briefly a mindset about what you're creating. When we talk about Run to Bronze, and I'm assuming every single person on here is here because that's what your goal is if you're not already a bronze. Do you actually think about what business you are creating? And this revenue generating example here is, if you had a traditional business and you want to talk about what your business does and you have annual sales revenues in your business, what does that look like? When we all say we want to be a bronze, what is it? It's 2,000 left, 2,000 right, 2D 300s. What does that mean? But here I want to give you an example of what you're building in the business, if you become a qualifying bronze, and I'm not talking about retail bonuses, I'm not talking about PC bonuses, I'm not talking about fast start bonuses, I'm talking about what are you generating as sales in a business on an annual basis if you are a qualifying bronze. I think it's pretty amazing to be able to say, when you talk to somebody about your side business, right, your little thing that they think is pretty unimportant, or, you know, just this casual part-time thing, my business generates over $250,000 a year in annual sales revenue, right? Does that give you a different mindset about what you're building and therefore how you're going to talk? I want to ask you to think about, if you go beyond bronze, what's a run to gold look like? What have you created if you create a stable gold business based on auto ship, right? And you're doing the 5,000 left, 5,000 right. This probably wigs a lot of people out because they never know what the business, the compensation plan really means. Right? How do you translate that into sales for ASEA, right? You're generating as a gold nearly $750,000 of sales for ASEA. You'd actually earn somewhere in the region of about 34,000 on auto ship income here. That may not completely change your life. It definitely will have an impact, but it may not be where it's going to change your life in a way that you have the total freedom that you're looking for. And just before we go on to the how you invite, what does it mean to be the diamond? All right, understand you have a business on auto ship volume that is generating over $2 million a year in sales for ASEA. I want you to understand what that can mean, right? This is where you get into the six-figure annual income from things like auto ship sales. But again, as I said, we're not talking about all the other ways. In the beginning, you're going to have to do the retail sales, the PCs, right? The fast start bonuses to help you really generate the income that you want. And you're going to build a solid business with constantly attending customers who are ordering your products regularly from here. So this is not a small fry thing. So you open your business, right? We've agreed the most ineffective way is to be searching for someone who only wants your product, right? Because if you're in the horticultural business, not everybody's going to want to buy plants from you, but you want everyone to know what you do. So when you start a business, my suggestion is, and if you've been in this business for quite a while, you can launch and relaunch, right? Plenty of people reorganize their businesses and they relaunch their business. And so I would suggest that you have a focus and a target for how you want to build that goal. We've got some wonderful ways in which you can bring people together. When we started, we just had an event and we invited 70 people, right? I didn't qualify, I didn't think about that. It's just everybody that could physically get to our home. And we promoted with enthusiasm and with energy and with deadline to encourage people to come. And if they said they were going to come, I actually pitched out the next level of thinking. So if I had somebody who was excited and interested to come to my event because it's appealed to them, when they said yes, my next question before we got off the phone was, who do you know who loves to learn things like you do? All right, why did I do that? Because if I could have a new guest coming to my event and they could listen to this amazing information that was being presented by Dr. David Silverman for me, all right, if they were excited, the last thing I wanted them to do was to then go back home and tell everyone, all right, and try and recap what they just learned. So my goal was, if they knew people that they would automatically be thinking about sharing this information with, if they were resonating with them, they actually had the opportunity to bring them to that event. Why? Because if they signed up, they already had somebody there with them who, if they were equally excited, was the beginning of their downline. All right, so when you invite to events, also start that person thinking about the next level of where they would go with that information. If you're going to an event and you're traveling in a car, make sure you fill the car. Take a group of friends with you, all right? So you've already got this whole process done. So what do? We launch our business, and we talked about many, many ways that you can find people to talk to. But one thing you absolutely should be doing is writing down that living list. And I always say start with at least 100 people. We were always told that. We got more than that in our phones, remember? But get that list. But again, don't pre-qualify, because if you have that horticultural business, not everybody's going to want to plant. But you want everyone to know that you exist, because if their aunt wants a plant, or they want to buy a present for their aunt who loves plants, you want them to know that your business exists. And so don't pre-qualify. If you need that memory jogger, we have Eric Worre has a great memory jogger that can help you think about people all over the world in many different connections. From that list, you'll end up deciphering connections and different groups of people who you will approach in different ways. Some of those will obviously be your close family, friends, the people that love and care for you or that you feel most comfortable about. Some people are going to be the lead with the product piece, but let's think about that. If we just lead with our product, like the hair salon, and somebody says no, we can't go to the fact that we have an amazing business opportunity, because we can't suddenly say, oh, this is an incredible business opportunity, when they've turned down the product. So one of the challenges people have is, do I lead with the product or do I lead with the business? When we lead with the business opportunity, they may turn that product down, but it still allows them the opportunity to be part of the other product that we have that we know changes lives and that everybody needs. So you can still go to the product and end up with a customer, which is cool. And someone, if they love that, and they've got the connections, why did you go to them in the first place? Because maybe they were a super connected person. Well, if they like that product, even as your customer, they're going to be willing to share that information and help you build. Some people you're going to have an indirect approach to, right? The chicken list, right? And some are going to be those super indirect people, even more of a chicken list. And those may be people that you're going to be, as we said last week, asking for help rather than a very direct approach over what you have. But here's a way to look at it. When you've made your list, here's a way to help you categorize who's important and who falls in different ways. Chuck, this is Chuck's approach to things, and he loves to build his baseball team or his NFL team, and he likes to look for the key people who would be most successful in helping build that team and win the goal. So you can take a list and you can put all of your people, you can make some columns, and you can actually list and check off for yourself who are the people that you love. Right? Who are the natural entrepreneurs that you already know? Maybe they've got side businesses, maybe they've got traditional businesses, maybe they've been in and out of things, and they're natural network marketers. They're achievers in their community, in their personal life, maybe they're athletes, people who've got recognition, they're on the school board, for example. They're in politics. Resources are, do they have financial resources, and do they have network resources in who they're connected to? Leadership people who are stable and successful, not constantly telling you that, oh, I'm always trying to find money for the next pay rent or whatever it is, but people who've got some kind of resource there, and caring and compassionate. So this is a way to kind of help you look at who is and who isn't, because if you're making a list of lots of people, you're going to be going through them in a different way. So here's an example of what that might look like, right? You write down on there, Jennifer. She's definitely a people person, you know that. She's actually an athlete, certainly an achiever in her own field. She's caring and compassionate. She definitely, you can have a product list if you want to think about a way to approach product list. Yeah, she definitely could benefit from the product, but she might rank as a 3. Mark, he's definitely a people person. He's an entrepreneur. He's also got some side job going on. He leads the high school football team, right? He trains people. He definitely has leadership skills, and he's very caring and compassionate. Higher ranking might be one of those people that you approach first. If you're trying to build the pillars of your business, you want to get really strong people in that first level to help you. You want to try to avoid finding people and putting them much further down. That doesn't always happen. We find people within our group because other people have introduced them. But when you're looking to how you build your business, you want to be going for really strong pivotal points. Now, Stephen, not necessarily that people person, maybe kind of geeky, maybe more technical. All right, he's an entrepreneur though. He has a really good business. very well known because he's successful in business, and he's successful and stable because he's got finances, but he's not necessarily that people person. We don't know about whether he needs a product or not. We have Susan, who's a super people person, entrepreneur. She's got a lot of recognition. She's loved in the community. Everybody knows her. She knows everyone. Got financial resources, definitely that leadership quality. If you want something done, she's the person to go to, right? If we want something done, we always go to the busy one. Somebody has an open mic if they could mute it. And stable and successful, and she's a super caring person. So she might be top of that list of this very short list that we've done here. Now, we had some great examples last week of how you approach. So let's suppose we're going to talk to Susan. She's a super good friend of yours. So again, you want to actually connect from that friendship heart piece, right? Complimenting her. You know, Susan, we've known each other for many years, and you know how amazing I think you are. You're certainly the busiest person that I know on the block, right? But I really want to know if you can just take a couple of minutes to look at something. I've actually started to develop a project of my own. If you can take 10 minutes and just tell me, I don't know if it's something that you'd actually want to be part of, but if it interests you, let's talk further. Right? So you're going to kind of outline and be able to address the people that are hopefully the strongest characters that you know who can help you build. You're going to have people that you're friends with, right? The friends who respect you very comfortably, the friends who you see as your equal, the friends who might see you as more influential than they are, they're going to definitely be the easiest and most comfortable place if you're very scared about the business side and you want to talk about only the product. But I would say to you, think about how you rate yourself also, because are you very entrepreneurial? If you are fairly new to this and you don't see yourself as having a history of being highly entrepreneurial, you probably know people who are much like you. And we've had somebody recently join our group in a couple, and the husband's comment was, well, when he looked at this, well, I don't know anybody who would have the money for the product, right? Or can, you know, they're struggling paycheck to paycheck, and they're certainly not entrepreneurial. You know, his notion of trying to invite them to look at the business will give you a hint, right? Because if you're actually out there sharing with someone who is living paycheck to paycheck, who can't afford, you know, just most of the main things that they want, what are you going to get from them? Well, it's too expensive, right? You're not going to have the right mindset for the product because they don't even understand the notion of what it would be to be financially independent and create a business or make an investment. People always think it's an expense, right? If they're not entrepreneurial, they're not going to see that it's an investment in being able to create something different. Every entrepreneur will tell you you have to invest money to make money. And I would say that we're very lucky with ASEA, because what do? We only buy what we need in the beginning. We're not filling our garages with products. You're not shipping them around and selling them. I mean, this is like the lowest cost involvement for the biggest potential you could ever have. So if you don't see yourself as a business person, understand that they're probably not going to resonate with business questions either, or business ideas. So don't be scared about the fact if you approach something that people are not comfortable with, that you're going to get these objections and you're probably going to get turned down in that arena. It's not about you, it's about them. But I do want you to think about the fact that conversations, when we get involved in conversations, aren't just a list of questions. We can give you a list of things to talk about and ways to think your way through them, but it's rather like a tennis game, right? This should be a volley back and forth. It should be a conversation back and forth. It's not the machine just firing balls at you and you kind of go through that long list. And some rallies of conversations will be shorter than others, and some will be longer, but the goal is to keep it in play. Last week, Alyssa mentioned LORD. That's one of those acronyms that we can keep in mind if you think you need a direction in how to go through the kinds of things that you can ask. FORM is another one. It doesn't mean that you hit all of these literally in order. We're not a machine here, and that's really important. I think the dreams is great, but you can ask the questions like, well, you know, what's on your bucket list? You know, did you get to create a bucket list last year, and what did you put on it would be important, because you've got to open your own ears and have conversations with people around what's important for them. So conversations with a purpose, it's really important to avoid the yes, no questions, right? The closed places, they're not going to get you anywhere. You want to keep that conversation going. So those questions need to reveal habits about that other person. Some of those things are bound up in those things like Lord and form, in terms of where they go for their vacations, what they're doing with their lifestyle. This has been a tumultuous 18 months. We have a lot of things that we can talk about how people's lives have been affected. It's kind of open-ended, and I think it's probably in some ways the most exciting time to be asking and having conversations with people about their life. What is it going to reveal about their aspirations, their loss, and their lack? I would always recommend that people protect your friendships, right? And it's important to be transparent. Don't have an ulterior motive that you kind of slide in there. What do we all hate? We hate being sold, right? We don't want to be that salesy person, all those negative things that people think about. I've had people say to me, well, I'm about to start hitting my list of friends, and there are a lot of people that I haven't spoken to for 5 years. So how do I get on the phone and then tell them about what I'm doing? Because they may feel like if I haven't spoken to them for 5 years, that the only reason I got on the phone correctly is that you want to talk about ASEA, right? So here's what I would suggest, and I love the way that Leland often forms this, is that don't get on the phone and start having this long social conversation where you go back into the history of all the things that you haven't talked about for the last 5 years, and then you get to the end of half an hour on the phone, or maybe more, and then you start to slide in why you called about ASEA. It's going to feel sleazy. You would feel it, right? You'd all know immediately, even if someone spent half an hour on the phone with you, that they only called you after 5 years because this is what they really want to talk about. Take notes. Make notes about the things that you hear that reveal information about them, that give you an opportunity to come back to the notion of what you've heard. And Leland has a beautiful way that in a couple of days later, he might call people and he'll say, you've been on my heart. I've been thinking about that conversation since we last spoke. You mentioned X. It might, it could be the business, it could be anything, it could be product, whatever. And I just felt, it would be really remiss of me if I didn't call and say, I don't know, I think I might have something that could help you. I don't know if it's something that you'd like to learn about, but can I send you some information? All right, so clearly establish when you're on phone calls. If you're going to do the other way, where people do want to go through their lists and they want to find and target the people that they think are the business builders that could join them, and definitely you may want to say to somebody, I'm setting up this business, I'm actually looking for 4 key people to partner with me, and all the reasons why you think. Don't get on the phone and have a half an hour conversation and then do it. If you want to do that, get into that conversation. Suppose that you haven't spoken to somebody for a long time. You might want to say, hi, super, I know we haven't spoken. This is so great to connect with you, and I actually do want to catch up. Can we set a time when we can do that? Because I've only got a couple of minutes. I'm actually calling you for a very specific reason, so that you're being clear up front, that you don't slide into a half an hour conversation and then try and push ASEA in the end. Establish that purpose for what you're calling. Say that you only have a few minutes. So you're kind of targeting down, and you're also allowing them to know that you're not going to hold on to them for hours on end socially and then push something. And be direct about why. You can do that direct conversation and targeting and saying what you're setting up as your business and that why you would like them to be part of it, and set another time. Maybe you can say at the beginning, I know we haven't spoken for ages. You came to mind. I want to chat. I don't know if you're free this evening. Can we chat this evening? Because I'd love to catch up. I've just got a couple of minutes though, but there is a question I want to ask you. So that is a way to do it, rather than, because one of the other challenges is if you sit on the phone for a half an hour and you do all this wonderful social chit chat, they've probably had enough by then, and the last thing they're going to do is to be ready for you to transition into why you really called. All right, so you're not going to get them to hear what you say. And the worst thing is, let's suppose you've done half an hour of friendship chit chat. You're 2 minutes into the why you're calling, and then somebody says, oh, my daughter's just arrived home, or my kids have got a problem, I got to go. right? You can't get back into that space very easily. You've had to let them go. All right, now they're off the phone. Now what do? Do you call them back this evening? We wanted to talk about that. It feels salesy and it's uncomfortable. So I'm always about protecting my friendships. You want to be friends with these people, especially if you want them in your business. Connecting conversations in order to have follow-ups later. Again, not literally a list, right? But the things like how's your health been over the last year? That's a conversation we can ask everybody. And it's open-ended for you to be able to hear what's been going on for them. What impacted you most with the changes of last year? Or you might say, well, last year was just crazy. I don't know what happened for you. I mean, how did you find the impact of last year? Open-ended questions, let them talk. You might say something like, for us, I could definitely lead to, we've actually ended up having to cancel a couple of overseas trips last year. What happened to you? There were so many hotel flights and cancellations. What was your outcome? Or, I don't know, did you end up having to cancel hotels and trips last year? We certainly did, right? Get into it. I always believe in the sandwich bit. It's a conversation. Give something about yourself in order to be able to lead to them. Right? Don't make it just this horrible checklist of, okay, I'm going to ask this and then I'm going to ask this. All right? It's a conversation because they're a friend. If you've got people who've got kids, you might want to say, well, last year seemed like a nightmare for parents who had to handle things online. How did your kids handle it? What did you do? Did you homeschool? All right. I would give something like, for example, my daughter got a job in DC and she's been virtual from the day that she started. So it's been a year now and she hasn't even met her team. All right. What happened for you at work? How did you handle things? So they're guidelines of ways to bounce back and forth and find out who you have with you and how to listen carefully for things that can give you something to come back to about why you might have a solution. Always ask for permission when you're going to offer them an opportunity to look. Understand and take away an option to say no, right? If I sent you this, would I? Last week, Alyssa covered this, and definitely in the Fraser Brooks things, right? When we do the online one and just saying, if it's no big deal, if it's a no. And you can say this to your friends, it might be something you're interested in or not. It doesn't matter to me either way, but I would love you to at least look at what I'm doing. Direct invites, obviously for information. Asking for help and support, as we went through last week, or asking for an opinion and evaluation of what you're doing from the people that you feel are very much chickenless people, so that you make it clear that you're not asking them to be part of your business, but you value their expertise and maybe they can connect you. So strategize your inviting. I'm going to throw this one out for you, and I want you to know that I underlined a picture of things. This is not necessarily that you would include everything, but this is how I think about conversations when I'm with people. And this is picture, you're in a social conversation, right? You maybe are not in a position where you're opening a conversation to have a seer as the target of your goal. But how about if you really wanted to be brave, having a conversation to find out who knows other network marketing people? If you ask that question, have you ever met anyone who's done network marketing in a relaxed conversational way? What's it going to produce? Well, first off, if they've got objections about network marketing, they're going to tell you straight away, right? So you're already going to know how that person is. In a way, you're kind of working out whether it's a possibility to have a conversation with them. Let's suppose, however, they say yes. Right, one of the points could be that you want to get connected to those people. Would they be willing to introduce you to some of those people? One of the points might be that you might want to weave in, someone shared something interesting with me and it's a patented health technology. I would love to be kind of very casual about this, or maybe I'm certainly thinking about becoming a customer of the product, but I'm kind of interested what other people feel about the industry. Or if you actually have a story that you really want to let them hear, but you're not in that natural process of sharing stories because you've said something about it, you might be, well, I actually started using this product, which I'm kind of interested in. I'm seeing great benefits, but it's kind of why I'm thinking about actively, doing something more with it. And again, these words don't need to be cut literal, right? It's like, think about the intention behind what you want and find the way that makes sense for you to deliver the same information. Now, if they come up with an objection, which is always typical, like the pyramid scheme, right? Suppose you say, do you know, have you ever met anyone who, come across anyone who's been in network marketing? Oh my goodness me, what, one of those pyramid scheme things, right? That can be the response back. Here's a key phrase that we were always taught by some trainers that I have from my group. When you get an objection, it is yes and. Right? You reaffirm their objection, and it's not yes, but it's yes and. So if you had an objection to things like the pyramid scheme, it might be, yeah, and you know, I don't know what to think about pyramid scheme. Or yes, and Bernie Madoff certainly had a really successful pyramid scheme, right? Make it a joke, throw something back. Remember, you're going to get a recording. You don't have to write these down. You can take them later. It might be, yeah, you know, and all corporations end up paying people higher up the top. You know, the janitor certainly never gets to be a CEO. So you're actually telling them how you feel about that objection, but without having an argument with them. Right? It might be, yeah, I'm trying to discern between the myth of pyramids, you know, the prejudice and the reality. Right? You're keeping that conversation open. It might be, yes, you know, but, you know, there are some key people that I actually have had a chance to talk to who are definitely earning more than the people who brought them in the company. Yeah, you know, and certainly they're not legal. Any, you know, those pyramid schemes aren't legal anymore. I mean, nowadays lots of companies have moved into direct selling, such as buying from Amazon. So that could be a fun way, if you're in a social situation, that you could open up a conversation and just see where it goes. It isn't, you know, it isn't maybe the normal way, but I love to play with things. And I think that that's kind of fun. And the goal here is, again, just thinking about, I did this, right? You pull up Google Map, it gives you lots of options. All right, they all lead to the same intention, and that's what you need, is what's your intention and what's your goal for your conversation. You may get at it from different ways. It isn't a linear approach, and so if you go one way, you're going to hit some things. If you go another way, you might hit something else. So kind of think about the fact that many roads lead to Rome. Inviting doctors. Everybody loves to know about the medical piece. Anyone knows me that I try to keep away from it. But here's the thing. Conversations need to open up how they think about things. So, and it wouldn't be all of these, all right? Don't hit all of them again. You know, conversations that discover what's their mindset about non-drug therapies. Maybe they're very close-minded and they're not remotely interested in anything other than a drug. What's their go-to? Questions that reveal if they've even heard about redox. Questions that reveal how many patients, you know, how they help patients with things like discomfort, anti-inflammatory drugs, over-the-counter options. You know, what's their mindset for the people who have those challenges? Questions that discover if they recommend nutritional supplements, because they might not stock them in their office, or refer people to people who have complementary approaches. Questions that can reveal, you know, if they're interested in looking at information, and do they offer educational seminars for their patients, because maybe that could be something that you could be. So I, you know, ask those questions, and it may be things like, you know, do you have any redox-based products that you offer people? I notice, you know, you recommend a range of nutritional products in your front office there. What do you use for mitochondria and redox? Right? Let them tell you, because you need to know whether they're open. And again, you know, I don't know if you're interested or if you feel like they're interested. You know, I've come across a new technology that's certainly been really powerful for me. I'm seeing a lot of doctors pay attention to this new field of redox. Would you be interested in me sending you some information on it? Would you be interested in being having an invitation to a medical webinar? All right? Again, that if I would you. Setting up the share, permission, the if I would you. I like to also kind of think through with people, how do they like to learn new ideas? Because not everybody wants to read, not everybody wants to watch videos. Finding that out can help you actually give them what they're looking for. Do they like science? Not everybody's interested in science, right? And so don't throw things at them they don't want. Do they like to see what other people experience? Because that's going to tell you they want the stories. Would you like a special invitation to a webinar with a doctor? If you get an opportunity, controlling the share and going straight to a Zoom if somebody says yes, because you get a chance to see their response right on the spot. You can watch the things like the real redox results with them. Just a heads up, if you're in a social situation and you throw out and you start to get a bite on it, and then somebody says to you, well, what is it? And they want you to tell more, do not transition into a mini presentation, all right, about the discussions. Set a time. Protect it as a business, right? Because you wouldn't suddenly start treating somebody on the spot if you had a business, or cutting their hair in a party, if that's what you did, right? Set a time and protect the fact that what you have is like, oh, this isn't the moment. I'd love to get together with you. Happy to share some stuff with you. Why don't we set up a time for that? Defining a time when you're able to look at it, right? Remind them if it's the redox results, it's only 10 minutes. Don't give away the information unless you've got a commitment to the fact that they're willing to look at what you're going to give them. Once you've handed it off, you've lost it. All right, now you're going to chase them because they have control. So if someone ever says to you, oh, well, I don't know, just send it to me, I'll get to it sometime next week, I wouldn't do that. Right? I would take that away and control it. Set up a time, be professional. The chase mode is where people hate us. So try not to be that pesky network marketer. And be tactical. I love these two pictures, right? I don't watch these shows very much, but both of these guys have something in common. They play stupid very often, right? They ask the questions to get the other person to reveal what they want. So they're tactical in how they think about it. So if you have someone who's not willing to commit, take it away. Maybe now's not the right time. I will say to people, I've actually said this, look, I don't want to chase you. I also don't want to forget about you. And everyone is super busy. So let me know when you have 10 minutes to spare and I'll just shoot you over the link. And then we can just chat straight after whilst it's fresh in your mind. All right, be in control and have the courage to do this, because people will respect it far more. If you let it go, then they're not going to respect it either. It's got to have value to you if it's going to have value to them. I've actually said to somebody, when people are resistant to set up an appointment to follow up, I've actually said, well, I know me, if I don't schedule it, I'm going to completely forget to follow up. So let's at least schedule something. And if we need to change it, that's fine. Everybody gets busy, right? Try and treat people very much as you would want to, but still be very focused on what you want to achieve. Third-party validation, inviting to the dreaded three-way. The job, excuse me, with a throat on my throat here, is to validate what you've heard on that third party. All right. I will tell you that very often I don't set this up with somebody already like, well, I'd love to get you on a call with X, because how many people feel that puts people off, right? They don't want to be on a call with X, whoever X is. So when I'm talking about sending information, I'm actually sowing the seed for the next call. All right, and I'm sowing the seed to have somebody as part of that next call without saying, well, I want to get you on a call with someone. So in my conversation about material, I again will be a bit like the Columbo and kind of casual and kind of a little out there on how I do it. I don't want to be too organized and kind of very businesslike in this, but I will promote someone else. So let's suppose I was on a call and I knew that they were like Lynn. Lynn had those symptoms and challenges that would relate to them. I might say, as we're talking about, I'm going to send you this, and let's find a time to chat afterwards. And we're kind of saying, and you know what? I was just thinking about it. I actually have a friend who's got one of the same challenges that you had, and she had great results with this. I don't know. She may. I might reach out to her between now and then and see. I don't know. She may have 5 minutes to spare. Perhaps she can get on the call, because I know that she's used it in certain ways, and so I'd love her to talk about what she did in order to get the outcome, since it's the same challenge you've got. So I'm setting up the notion that I may talk to someone who may or may not be free. And I've actually said she may be available for 5 minutes. In other words, she's not going to be on a long call. I'm kind of dialing it down so that they don't feel uncomfortable. And I want to establish that I don't know if they're going to be available. When I call them back, I will have that other person on there. And what I'm going to do is don't go into a long social chit chat when you get them and have that person sitting on there. I'll actually say hi, and I'll say, you know what, we're going to chat. But you remember I mentioned that I was going to reach out and see if my friend Lynn could take just a couple of minutes to share how things went for her. Well, she actually said she could be available for a few minutes. I grabbed her on the phone. She's going to just chat. I want her to tell you the story because I think it's really going to be helpful for you. And then she's going to jump off and you and I can chat because we said we were going to talk. And I'm super excited to hear, you know, what you've thought about the material. So Lynn, you know, this is Jennifer. I'm just going to let you chat for a couple of seconds because I know you're busy and you have to run as well. So I've actually kind of given an outlet to not being channeled into it. But what's going to happen is that people are going to be able to feel that they want to go off comfortably. Private conversations are also third way. This is all sorts of ways that the three-way is, sorry, I'll just go back on that one briefly. The three-way is private, could be private event, personal Zoom, anything is the third-party validation. In homes, you can do in homes with the gel technology and the facials, and in the back office library, you'll see that I have a video that's in there if you want to know how to present that as opposed to Redox, and it can circle back to Redox. Regional events are a three-way also. It's third-party validation. It does not have to be a private conversation. That comes when it's appropriate. These would be resources that I definitely would use. Again, I would ask the questions about what works for people and what do they want. I love to use the Real Redox results and promote a specific story. All right, why do they want to look at that? But those are the key things that I do. I don't change it around too much. If they're scientific, we might add some science in there. If there's something really specific for them, I might add something in there, but I'm not going to load them up with tons of things. If they're an athlete, Athlete Edge can be beneficial. Tiny, their interest, not yours. Keep it that way with your mindset, right? Their interest, not yours. And the art of listening, just to complete this piece, is really, you know, that emotional intelligence is having the empathy to be able to connect your personal experience with those of others. Listen to your gut. Don't do something that feels uncomfortable, right? We all know it in our hearts when it feels right and it feels wrong. Be willing to take a deep breath and come back another time if another time feels better to ask. And do not treat others as you would not want to be treated. That's always a great role. And finalizing, serve, not sell. All right, transformation, not transaction. And remember, network marketing is an emotional business. 70 to 75% of whether you move forward or whether your process stops is going to be based on how they feel about what you do and how you share. So that's a key thing. So keep it conversational. Be confident, focus on your prospect, serve, not sell, but be intentional in how you invite. So I know we've gone over in time here. I'm going to stop my share. And I hope that that kind of helps you think about mindset over inviting and not just words, because they're very different. And your words are going to be directed by how your intention is focused. So loads of comments in there.
You are amazing, Carolyn. We overran, but it's worth every second of it. It's amazing. I learned a lot of new things from this training. Thank you so much. It's a keeper.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to stop that.